guys, welcome back to my channel. I'm super excited that you're here and I'm so excited for this video because I love sharing what I know and my tips with other yoga teachers because teaching yoga is such a rewarding job and the more teachers, in my opinion, the merrier. So I'm very excited to be answering your questions from Instagram, which by the way, if you're not following me yet, my Instagram is @ShaylaQuinn. The link to that is down in the description box below. I would love to connect with you over there. And for those of you that are new to my channel, I am a yoga instructor here in LA. I am a full-time teacher at Alo Yoga in Los Angeles, although our studios are closed right now, which is so sad. But before all this happened, I was teaching weekly classes at Alo Yoga at their Grove and Beverly Hills location. And in addition to those public classes, I teach quite a few private clients around LA. So I am teaching, and I started teaching in 2017, but I started my teacher training journey in 2014. But I'll get into that because a few of the questions kind of touch on that, so we'll dive right in. I did my first teacher training in 2014 and it was an Ashtanga based training, and I did that here in LA through a school called Source of Yoga, and we mostly focused on Ashtanga yoga, which is the classical style of yoga or Raja yoga, but we also covered vinyasa and power yoga and all different styles of yoga, as well as anatomy and philosophy and some Ayurveda and chakras and all sorts of stuff. So it was a fairly comprehensive training and it was a month-long intensive training. My second yoga teacher training that I did was in 2015, and I did that through Travis Elliott and Lauren Ekstrom in Venice, California. That was a holistic yoga teacher training. And within that training, we focused on vinyasa, yin, prenatal, power, a little Ashtanga, all the things, as well as anatomy, philosophy, Ayurveda, chakras, Bhakti yoga, all the things. So it was a very comprehensive training. That was a 3-month-long training, just on weekends. My most recent training that I completed, I finished that in August of 2019, so last August, and I did that one in Bali, and that was a month-long intensive training. I currently have 600 hours of training, and I'm always looking for more. I love learning. I would recommend any of the trainings that I did. I really loved all of them, and I love them for different reasons. The first two I did while I was still working full-time because I did them in LA. And both trainings, I was very distracted in my personal life. So I really went to those first two trainings with no intention to really start teaching, if I'm gonna be honest. I really wanted to deepen my practice. I was going through a lot in my personal life, and I knew yoga made me feel better, and I wanted to learn more and fully immerse myself. But it was really hard for me at the time to give 100% because I was still working full time. And it's a lot. You learn a lot in your trainings, and there's a lot happening, and there's a lot of shifts, and a lot of stuff comes up, and it's a lot to take in. So I really loved this latest one that I just did in Bali because I was able to not work for a month, which was such a luxury that I've never had before in my life. It was something that I really saved up for and planned for, and it was so worth it because I felt like it was worth it to not have the normal distractions of day-to-day life. My only responsibility was to focus on my yoga teacher training. So if I could recommend one, it would be that, I don't know, I mean, the first two served really great purposes for me as well, you know, but I think there was something really special about being able to fully concentrate and dedicate my time to the training when I was in Bali that really made the whole experience so much more powerful, in my opinion. But maybe that's also because I was already teaching when I went and did that. And so I was really approaching it with the intention of strengthening my teaching skills. Whereas, like I said, the other two, I was just really there to immerse myself more in my personal practice. But yeah, I would definitely recommend them. There are so many yoga teacher trainings happening all over the world all the time, and it can feel really overwhelming to pick which one is the best for you. And I think that the best thing to do is to do your research and speak to the people hosting the training and see if you can speak to students who have graduated the training and get a feel for how they felt about it and get a feel for the teachers. And like with anything, if you have a teacher in your training that you don't vibe with, it can really throw off the entire experience. Energy is super important, I think, when trying to learn from anyone. Take your time in really exploring the teachers and see how they feel to you. Check out their social media, see how they show up on their social media platforms. See if you can get a vibe from them. You know, I know that's hard until you actually are studying with them, but I think that's a really important component because personalities and energies can really make or break the situation. As far as the curriculum goes, I really think it's incredibly beneficial to do a training that does touch on Ashtanga yoga. Ashtanga yoga is like classical ballet is to dance, right? It just gives you a really solid foundation. Vinyasa and all these other strains of yoga and variations of the physical practice of yoga really are branches off of Ashtanga yoga. So I think having a good knowledge of Ashtanga yoga is really important and powerful as a teacher. And because I know we're all so spread out all over the world, it's hard for me to recommend one particular training, but happy to let you know what I think. If you want to leave a training down in the comments, I can take a look and let you know what I think. It's funny because the story of me becoming a teacher is not glamorous at all. I did 2 teacher trainings, and both times I swore up and down to everyone, I don't want to be a teacher. I'm not trying to be a teacher. I just want to learn more about my practice. And that truly was at the time. That was my intention with going to these trainings. I truly just wanted to learn more about yoga. I would go to yoga and feel better. And I was like, I want to know why that is. I want to know what is happening in this practice that's making me feel better. So I did the 2 trainings. And then in 2016, I started to flirt with the idea of finally leaving a really toxic and abusive relationship that I had been in for about 4 years up until that point. And without getting too far into this, and I can make a whole video on this if you guys want to know more, but a couple months later, so in March, decided that I wanted to start a blog because I just wanted to start talking more about yoga. I wanted to do more with yoga. Yoga made me happy, and still wasn't planning on teaching or anything like that, but I needed something to distract me from leaving this really toxic relationship. I was really unhappy in my life, very depressed, and I wanted to come back to joy and come back to the things that bring me joy. And the biggest thing in my life at that time that brought me joy was yoga. I started a blog. The blog really started out as a hobby. I really started it because I wanted to keep myself busy and I needed a creative outlet. I was working on my blog and going to yoga and doing all these things. And then the blog started to do really, really well. And immediately once my blog started to get some traction, people would always ask me, they're like, oh, do you teach? You have yoga certifications. Why aren't you teaching? And I'm like, I don't want to teach. It's not my thing. I don't want to teach. They're like, well, then why did you do 2 teacher trainings? And I'm like, well, I wanted to learn more about yoga, but I don't want to teach. I think after a certain amount of time, a lot of people asking me, why aren't you teaching? So many times I started to kind of consider, maybe I should teach. Maybe I should just try it and see if I like it. I don't know if I'm gonna like it, but maybe I'll just try. So I started to flirt with the idea of beginning to teach, but I was really scared to start teaching, which is interesting because prior to this, I was acting and singing and performing and dancing, and I'm always the person that's like, let me entertain you, and I love being in front of crowds, and it's super easy for me and natural for me to get up on stage and belt out a song or act out a scene or whatever it might be. But for some reason, the thought of getting up in front of a room and teaching yoga scared the living crap out of me. At the time, I didn't know why it made me so scared. I started to assist some of my teachers in their classes. I said, look, I'm thinking I might want to start teaching. I'm really, really scared. I don't think I'm ready. And they're like, Shayla, you have 400 hours of training. You're ready. 200 is the amount that most teachers have. You have double that. You're ready. And I'm like, I'm not ready. I'm not ready. I'm not ready. I was so scared. So I started to assist some of my favorite teachers in their classes to try to kind of get my feet wet of being in front of a group. And I started to work with one of my other teachers a couple times a week and practice teaching with her. And I just kind of started to slowly dip my toes into the water. And when I first started teaching, I honestly did not like it. I was like, I'm so nervous. This is terrible. It's like a slow motion car wreck. I can't remember. I freeze up. It's exhausting. It's stressful. I don't like teaching at all. And it really took me some time teaching until I started to really love teaching, because the only way to get better and feel better about teaching is by teaching. You have to like jump in and start doing to get better. So for me, deciding to start teaching was really a slow build. When I decided to become an entrepreneur, I've always really been the entrepreneur type. When I was younger, I would babysit the neighborhood kids, and then I think around 12, I had my own swim school business at the neighborhood pool, and I would teach kids how to swim. And then I nannied in my 20s. And then, I've always had these little like side businesses. I grew up in a household where my mother was a single mom and she had her own business. She's a music teacher. And so I saw her, how she worked for herself and had her own business. And I've always kind of had that entrepreneur gene in my blood, and it's always been very ingrained in me, seeing my mom doing that. But it really wasn't until March of 2016 when I started my blog and started to see my blog get traction that I started to think, oh, this could actually be a career for myself. Now looking back, it really was so fluid and perfect, but I really was only trying to follow my heart. And that's what's really cool about all of it, is that I just kept saying yes to the things that brought me joy, and I kept doing whatever I could to stay in alignment with what my heart was telling me. I got here just by saying yes to things that feel good. Oh, thank you so much. I would say I channel my creativity and yoga theory in my own classes through my own practice. That is the thing that I think inspires my teaching the most, is my time spent on my mat. I practice in an intuitive way, and I see what feels good and what flows. And yes, there are certain things that I learned in my teacher trainings that are so ingrained in me that I know that we start with warm-ups, and we need to warm up the hips and the hamstrings and the wrists and the hands. I like to kind of have it be a slow build. And I think that comes with practice and your own personal practice, and then practice also in teaching. But you'll learn in your teacher trainings that there's definitely, maybe I should create an ebook on this. Let me know if you want an ebook on this, on how to sequence classes or how to sequence your own personal practice, because I definitely have a method. It's hard for me to explain on the fly right now, but I could definitely come up with something cool for you guys if that's something that you are interested in. But I would say the easiest way to answer this question is through my own personal practice. Getting on your mat, exploring things, moving in a way that just feels good in your body, and then either jotting that down or keeping that in mind when you're sequencing for your own classes. I think this question was kind of answered in the previous question. In my opinion, the best way to curate sequences is to get on your mat and practice and see what feels good. Take classes with teachers that you admire, that you feel like you have similar styles to, or that you think would be similar teaching styles to you, and see how they're sequencing as you're practicing, see what feels good, and then just make mental notes of what feels good, so that when it comes time to curate an experience for your yogis, you know what feels good because you did it. I mean, I don't see why you couldn't post your flows on Instagram or YouTube. I think if you're just sharing your practice, I don't see anything wrong with that. I totally think that you should. If you're creating flows with the intention of teaching or leading a class, I might wait till I have my certification, but I don't know. I mean, if you're online, then people are willingly doing it. You know, I guess my initial thought is generally you need a certification to teach in public establishments because that's the requirement, but it's the internet, so maybe anything goes. I would probably say in the caption or in the video, maybe in the beginning, like, I'm currently in my yoga teacher training, so I'm not certified yet, but I love yoga and I love creating sequences, and if you want to flow with me, I created this video so you can flow along with me. You know what I mean? I think it gets a little sticky if you're teaching yoga and you haven't completed a certification, because for me at least, it feels a little icky because I went and did the certification, you know? It doesn't make me better than the next person, but I invested in that and took that seriously and really took that to heart and invested time and money into that. And I think that should be respected. You know, all teachers have to have professional certification to teach. So I think that there is a fine line that I think should be respected in that way, but I don't see why you couldn't share if it feels good to you. It's your practice, it's your life. I say go for it if that's what you want and if that feels good to you. Personally, I think it would depend on how I was sharing the flows, and maybe out of respect for the other teachers that have put in time, energy, and money into completing a certification, I probably wouldn't share with the intention of teaching yoga because I'm technically not a certified teacher. You know what I mean? Yeah, teacher training can be really expensive. For me, you know, I didn't go to college. So I felt like this certification was my college in a way and my schooling, you know, because I didn't get to go to college. But I remember my first teacher training, yeah, coming up with, I think my first training was $1,200. I think I got it on Groupon. It was normally $2,400 and it was like half off. And even then, the $1,200 was like a lot of money for me. It was like, oh, I'm gonna have to put it on a credit card and pay it off. It was very expensive, but it was totally worth it. I know some studios have work trade systems where you can work at the studio and trade for classes or training, and I would think that that would be a much more affordable way to get your certification. Otherwise, I like to go back to good old-fashioned working and saving money and saving towards it, you know? Or finding a 0% credit card that you can comfortably make payments on, right? If the studio doesn't allow you to make payments on the training, maybe you can open up, I don't wanna give you guys advice to open up a credit card, but I think that credit cards can be really helpful if you're paying for schooling and you are doing something that you are going to be able to pay. If you come up with a plan, like you're gonna pay it off in 6 months or something like that, I think that that could be a really great way to start your certification process and then work on paying off the certification over a span of a few months, you know? But I would definitely check out local studios because I know a lot of studios have a work for trade program like that where you can work and trade for classes or training. So that could be a really good option. I totally understand this and sympathize. I too had a really stressful time trying to curate sequences in the beginning of my teaching career, but the more you teach, the better you get and the easier it feels. Like I said earlier in this video, the best way for you to start feeling more comfortable with sequencing is to practice more. Practice, see what feels good, come up with a sequence, do the sequence, feel it in your body, add things, take away things, and then it becomes a lot easier to teach something after you've already done it, right? And the more you do it, the easier it's gonna be to share because you're actually teaching it from a recollection of doing versus remembering a list you wrote out on a piece of paper, you know? Go take more classes, practice with new teachers, find inspiration where you can, but I think the best place to gain more intel on curating sequences is by practicing more, getting on your mat more. In the beginning of my training journey, thought that I needed and should get Yoga Alliance certified, but I'm actually not Yoga Alliance certified, and I've not had any problems teaching or getting teaching jobs or anything like that. So I'm not. I'm sure it has its perks. I originally didn't get Yoga Alliance certified because I didn't have the money to do it in 2014 when I first started my training journey, and then it just never came up that I needed it, so I just never did it. You can teach virtual classes, you could create a yoga ebook, you could create a yoga program. I mean, we have the internet now. The possibilities are endless, you know, and I think it really depends on what you're being called to and what feels good to you and what medium feels good to you, whether it's video or podcasting or writing or drawing or whatever it might be. There's definitely lots of ways that you can generate income other than just teaching in-person classes. You just have to get a little creative. Well, I do have my 12-week yoga-inspired self-discovery program, the Yoga-Inspired Life, beginning again on May 18th. And that program, my program, is an incredible complement to a yoga teacher training certification / any yoga practice. You don't have to be a yogi to benefit from the program, but it's an incredible way to dive deeper into self-discovery and really reconnect with yourself, because ultimately we can best show up as teachers when we are fully supporting ourselves and honoring what we need and working through things that we need to face. And my program covers all the things: yoga philosophy, meditation, pranayama, yogic rituals, healthy routines, self-confidence, self-love, stepping into your power, discovering your purpose, which ultimately can help you better serve your community and take your teaching to the next level and take your practice to the next level. And I think that now would be an incredible time to invest in something for yourself that's gonna better yourself, because when you're better, you're a better teacher. So if you want more information about my 12-week program, the Yoga Inspired Life, leave me a comment below, send me an email, send me a DM on Instagram. Let me know. I'd love to have you a part of it. It starts on May 18th. It's online, 12 weeks, 6 modules, all the good stuff. Because it is such intense soul deep healing work that we do, and because we work so closely over the 12 weeks, I do keep the groups pretty small and intimate, so there will be limited spaces available. So if you are interested in joining, do not hesitate. Every single cycle has sold out. I just opened this cycle. Reach out to me if you're interested and we can chat more about it and I can get you some more information. I don't know if there's an age limit on when you can start yoga teacher training. I think that would depend on the training itself and if they have any limitations on that. But I think the younger, the better. I mean, as long as you're able to comprehend and read and get yourself to the training and can afford the training, I think that, I could have really benefited from it at 16, 17, 18, you know? So I don't know, I think that that's a question for the training center, but I think the younger, the better. Keep practicing yoga. Think about doing a certification so that you can learn more and you can deepen your personal practice and understanding and knowledge of the history of yoga. Read all the books. I have a couple of blog posts up on my blog, Namaste Shay, where I talk about my favorite yoga books and things that you can read to deepen your practice and just keep showing up on your mat. For the time being, I'm not planning on holding a yoga teacher training, although, like I mentioned, I do have my 12-week yoga-inspired self-discovery program, the Yoga Inspired Life, which is a training in itself. It's not a yoga teaching certification, but you definitely learn all of the things that would fully prepare you to start teaching. And it's also just incredibly beneficial for all humans to do the type of work that is in my program, because it is full-on deep self-discovery work that will help you excel in all areas of your life, no matter whether you're pursuing teaching yoga or whatever it might be. It's incredibly powerful stuff in there. I truly found the confidence to start teaching by letting myself feel the fear, acknowledging that I was scared AF, and doing it anyways, because the only way I started to get better and started to feel more comfortable teaching was by teaching. You can practice teach all you want, you can practice your sequences and yoga voice all you want, but the only way to get better at teaching is by teaching. Nothing replaces jumping full on into the pool of teaching and going for it. Gonna be a little uncomfortable. It might be a little bumpy. Like I said, I think my first few classes, I remember calling my mom crying after, being like, that was a slow motion car accident. I did not like that. But it gets better, it gets easier, you get more comfortable. The words start to become more fluid. And I'm pretty sure I talked more about this in the other video that I did, tips for new teachers. So again, the link to that video is down in the description box below, but you just gotta go for it. I know, there's no way around it. It's so scary and it's like, ugh, it's so daunting, but you just gotta do it. That's the only way. That's the only way to start to build confidence, is by doing. I did my teacher training in Bali with All Yoga, and I would highly recommend them. I had a great experience. I really loved being in Bali, obviously. It was the best time ever. I literally wanted to move there. I didn't want to come home. I was like, ugh. If I didn't have my dog, at the time I didn't even have my dog Bali yet, but if I didn't have my family and my doggy here, I would have probably stayed. I loved it so much. In comparison to the other 2 trainings that I did, I really loved that they have you teaching right away. And I think that that's a really big component, is you gotta start teaching ASAP. You gotta get over the fear of talking in front of people. I love that they had everyone teaching, I think within the first week of training. So yeah, I would highly recommend them. You know me, you know I love books, I love reading, and there are so many amazing books to read. Your training will probably recommend a series of books, and I feel like most of the trainings recommend the same books, give or take, but I have written an entire blog post for this question because there's just so many good ones. So I will leave the link for this blog post down in the description box below for all of my recommended books to read before, during, and after yoga teacher training. And that's all the questions. Oh my gosh, this was so great. I hope that I answered all of your questions. If there are any questions that you have that are not answered in this video or in my other tips for new teachers video, please feel free to leave a comment on either this video or that video, and I will do a follow-up video answering additional questions. Or if there's something that you want to know more about that I talked about in this video or that video, feel free to let me know. I would love to hear from you. I love sharing my knowledge and experience with other teachers because we all have to start somewhere, and I really had a rough go when I started teaching. So if you're feeling uneasy or not confident or anxious about teaching, know that you're not alone, and I would love to be there for you and support you in any way that I can. Thank you so much for watching. If you like this video, please give it a like, give it a thumbs up, because that really supports my channel and I really appreciate the support. I'm looking forward to connecting with you guys more. I hope you have an amazing rest of your day, and I will see you in my next video. Bye.